Questions. We have tons of them. What if some of those questions can be answered with a simple email? Now is that time, and welcome to Chat with Charlie. Host Stephanie Lynn is a certified spiritual life coach and psychic medium. She will work together with Spirit to answer both your submitted and live questions. Not only will Stephanie be providing you with insight, but also interviews with amazing guests. Now, your host of Chat with Charlie, Stephanie Lynn.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into Chat with Charlie. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn. I hope you are as extremely excited as I am to have these guests on today. Today, we are welcoming Sean Clenn and Hero from Unearthing the Supernatural. You guys are going to love them. We always talk about traditional ways of doing things within our paranormal investigations, and they have so much knowledge to offer. So please help me welcome Sean Clenn and Hero from Unearthing the Supernatural. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
How's it going?
I am so excited to have you guys here. And Sherry says good morning and hello. Good morning, Jackie. I kept hearing all morning as I was setting up, so I want to share this with you guys, is that you have many blessings to share. And that just really keeps coming through, that not only are you a blessing within your culture, but you're a blessing on so many other levels. So I want to thank you for doing what you do, because I appreciate it. And I know so many other people do.
Yeah, for sure. We're just trying to, I guess you could say, carry on the generational stick of knowledge.
Yes.
You know, that's pretty much what our duty is to make sure that the spiritual teachings and knowledge get passed on.
Can you share just a little bit for our viewers who may not be familiar with what you do and how Use operates, to give them an understanding?
Yeah, so our channel name is Unearthing the Supernatural. And now our channel was founded a little over 2 years ago now, I would say. And my brother here, Hero, is a medicinal person of our tribe. So he's certified and he was trained ever since he was a little boy. So I'll go ahead and let him talk about that in a bit. But the little bit of background of Unearthing the Supernatural is my brother and I, we grew up as kids watching, you know, Ghost Adventures and all these other ghost hunting shows and everything. And we always thought it was really interesting because whenever we would go out and perform ceremonies or do cleansings in that way, you know, we interacted with spirits on that level as well. So it was interesting to be able to see other people, to be able to interact with spiritual deities like that.
Yes.
But kind of as we grew a little older, you know, we were able to see a little bit more the steps that they were missing in between certain things, how to conduct yourself, and a lot of the do's and don'ts you're not supposed to be doing with spiritual beings and protections as well. So when my brother and I were old enough, I approached him and I asked him, I was like, brother, why don't we try to show people what we know? Why don't we try to enlighten people, give a little bit more information, give them a little bit more insight on how us indigenous people interact with these beings? So I'll go ahead and let my brother give a little bit of a background of his story and how he became a medicinal person.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everyone. So my name is David. Most people on the show call me Hero. But for me, as an indigenous person, indigenous medicinal person, I was selected at a very young age. So as I was growing up, as indigenous people, you're kind of always raised in the spiritual world. You're always raised around spirits, always raised around ancient teachings, and ceremony is a huge part of your life, even before you're born. Now, select people who have gone through the same program that I have kind of showed off early on in their years some of the particular gifts that we're developing. And from there, I was selected to be part of a traditional kind of like cultural exchange program.
Okay.
But with this cultural exchange program, what it aimed to do was to be able to keep indigenous ways of life from going extinct. This is like old ceremonies that were on the verge of going extinct, ancient knowledge, ancient ceremonies, ancient pretty much teachings that kind of span across multiple tribes. So I was able to interact with people from multiple tribes, interact with, kind of see their ceremonies, hear their stories, and also with my own tribe, be able to understand my tribe's stories, my tribe's traditional teachings. And from there, it kind of just developed into being a young warrior, into being a young medicinal person, kind of the term of medicinal person that's usually synonymous with like elders, people who are
Yes.
older in age. But for us, for me, and then the other my peers that went a part in that program, it was more of dealing with the spiritual realms, being that bridge, being that connection, so that way we can help people and spirits alike and maintain that balance throughout the world. And so my role kind of developed more into the into representation of who I am as a guardian of the West Mountain. Now that mountain to us is the Go'otsli, which is the Flagstaff Mountains.
Okay.
And so the West represents war. West represents adulthood and life. It represents kind of going out and protecting what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, I learned a lot of kind of the warrior ceremonies. I learned a lot of dealing and combating the darkness. And I guess in English terms, some people have said like, okay, so you've learned how to be an exorcism or exorcist. And I said, you know, that I guess in English that's a decent way, but in our traditional way, it's toti it's the one who goes and deals with the negative side, the one who
Okay.
brings balance back. And so that's kind of what I've done. And my brother seen me do a lot of ceremonies. My brother seen me do a lot of great things with that. And it was his idea is like, hey, we do these things already. Why don't we just take a camera with us and go see what we can do? And that's kind of where it started.
Okay.
And now a huge thing with it is being an advocate to the spirits, being an advocate to these
Yes.
traditional teachings, because everyone wants to exploit the spirits. Everyone wants to just run around and be like, oh, ghosts, and just kind of
Right.
make a scary story. But to us, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to even our show that goes on
Absolutely.
behind the scene, beyond the camera. And we're just very proud to be able to express a little bit of that. We kind of keep a lot of the sacredness to ourselves and protect that for obvious reasons. But we still want to teach what we can and express what we can, so that way a lot of people can learn and a lot of people can enjoy the spiritual world again.
And I love that. I love the focus on not only the traditions and carrying on the traditions, carrying on the storytelling, but for me, when I stepped into my abilities, it wasn't necessarily a choice, but it was for the same thing. It was to promote healing. It was to promote understanding to people. And where I live, I live in northern Wisconsin, and so there is a large population of indigenous people. And in moving here, because I'm actually from the East Coast, I saw such a need for healing, not only healing the land, but helping heal between cultures, helping heal cultures, and offering understandings in between what some people view as differences. Where a lot of people view differences, I view commonality. I just kind of look at things a lot differently. But when I came across you guys, I was like, yes, yes, because I'm one of those people. I grew up Pennsylvania German, and we have what they call it powwow magic, and it's mountain people. It's people who were taught to heal. And I was just so blown away by you guys using those traditions. There's a lot of those traditions that I carry on too. And not everybody works within that negative spiritual world. And I have found a lot of times, even talking to colleagues, they deal with everything that's great and sparkly. But I'm like, yeah, but do you guys see what's going on over there? And so I just love that you bring in that aspect and educate people on the spiritual warfare, on, yes, these are people. Yes, we have to be respectful. I love that you offer that healing within your investigations.
Definitely. And that's one of the main things is acknowledgement of all beings of all realms.
Yes.
You cannot pick and choose what type of spiritual beings can exist in the world that you live in. There has to be good, there has to be bad. There's a balance between everything like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I love that. And I do want to ask Hero, because I see the markings on your face, and I'm asking this is a personal question. I have had some experience with indigenous spirits reaching out to me, and I had gone to a local tribe with tobacco and tried to present as traditionally as I could, asking for help. And unfortunately, they weren't able to help me. And so I had gone back to the spirit and I said, the tribe can't help me. I can help you cross over the way I know how. Is this acceptable? And they indicated to me that it was. After, and that's a whole experience that I want to talk to you guys after, at another time, because it would just eat up way more time than what we have. But after I helped them transition, I had a dream, and to me, it reminded me of a ceremony. I can't explain what was going on. It almost reminded me of what I see happening in a sweat lodge, if that makes sense. But then they drew those markings on my face. And so I see that with you, and I've tried looking up, the different representations. And so can you help me understand what those are, or what those mean?
Yeah, so the particular markings on my face and the markings that I have all throughout my body are all markings that have been earned through tasks, that have been earned through kind of gaining, I guess, kind of helping the people, helping spirits out,
Okay.
learning certain knowledge, learning a certain level of I guess, practice. And it's kind of similar. How I describe it to people in a real quick elevator pitch, and when they
Yeah.
ask about it, is they're like, what are those? Well, you can think of like military, or you can think of like police officers, kind of a ranking system on their sleeves or their chest. And it's very similar to that in our indigenous practices, to where these particular markings, they represent kind of a certain level of rank, or certain level of knowledge that I've gained.
Okay.
And they're each given with a very particular purpose and a lot of stories behind them. They may look like just lines and dots, but
Right.
they represent, like, the two lines represent the twin warriors, and they represent female lightning. And then the right side, with the dots, they represent the different stars and mountains of our tribe.
That's
And then
beautiful.
when I put war paint on, it makes the crooked lightning. So there's a lot to that, and there's even a lot more into the stories behind why I wear them. But they're pretty much a recognizable symbol, to where when spirits look at me, or even when other tribes look upon me, there's a certain level of respect, because they're not just on there just because I want them to. Every marking on your body has to be earned. Otherwise, there's no reason to have it on. So when it comes to putting markings on faces, especially during ceremony or anything, you are in a sense kind of marking yourself for spirits to recognize you, and you're also kind of putting on a protection, a level of healing. It all depends on the ceremony, and all depends on what's going on, as to what's being marked on you, to determine kind of the meanings behind the markings.
Yeah, I like that. That's beautiful. Thank you. How would you say, when you are dealing with the more negative aspects of the spirit world? And I too, I don't really like, that term exorcism. To me, it's removing the negative entities, it's healing the land, it's helping healing shadow parts of somebody. How, I guess, and not necessarily your process, but maybe a little bit about how you recognize, some of that darkness, how you feel helping healing that is helping overall.
Yeah, so when we go about kind of confronting the darker side, confronting kind of the more negative side, you have to take into account your whole environment, your whole situation that you're in. Because we don't necessarily, we go in with protection. Yeah, we go in and kind of making sure that we're not going in blind, we're not going in unprepared. We always have a little bit of understanding to the situation. We always have a little bit of protection with us. We always have a little bit of respect for what we're about to go into, because you're not going to go into enemy territory completely with nothing. You have things on the background, you have things on the back burner, but you assess your situation. You assess kind of the spirits you're dealing with and their particular attitude towards you. Now, we've come across spirits who are from the early 1900s, even the 1800s, even before that, who were extremely racist, who were out for a fight, and normal, just human beings that kind of are living by their nature that they were when they were alive. Now, that doesn't necessarily require bearing up arms. That just kind of tries to go with understanding, and you just kind of dance with the energy a little bit. You kind of just interact with it. You kind of either just deal with it, or you you try to educate them a little bit, and if they're just kind of throwing shade, you throw a little bit of
Right.
shade
Well,
back.
and
Yeah.
not to interrupt, but I tell my boys who exhibit some abilities, and they get a little freaked out sometime, and I'm like, well, you have to realize if they were an asshole when they were alive, they may just be a jerk now that they've transitioned. It's not, always that they're negative. It's just they were jackasses.
That might be why they're still around, is they're a little bit stubborn
Right.
to go into the other side. So,
Right.
but when it comes to the truly dark, when it comes to the truly evil and the negative, their signs are there right off the bat, and usually the spirits there will let you know, the energies, the environments. There's telltale signs of them being around, whether it be super dark energy spots, whether it be like, you can almost imagine walking through a hallway and claw marks everywhere. It's similar to that, but there are very particular signs that we're trying to look out for. And when we come to this, you walk into it very particularly, very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, even at that point, you don't necessarily bear up arms, because how the teachings go is you have to be able to walk through darkness, walk through evil. And if they don't know you're there, then you're doing a good job. But if you made your presence known and they know you're there and they haven't attacked you yet,
Mm-hmm.
then you can negotiate, you can talk. We're not necessarily ones that are going to go against evil and darkness and just get rid of everything that we can. No,
Right.
there's a place for everything. There's a place, if that is their home, there's certain beings that have claimed their homes, and you're not just going to go into someone's home and that's where it's going to be. You go into sacred sites that are designated for darkness, because you have to have good and dark in this world.
Yes.
Then from there, you just honestly, if it's not bothering anyone and that's just where it's supposed to be, you just calmly back out, give it an offering and back out, and just be like, sorry for stepping in your space. But if it is causing trouble, if it is harming spirits, if it is harming people, if it is kind of being a truly negative entity that doesn't belong, that's when you go in, you step in, you bear up arms, you have songs and ceremonies, and you have spiritual combat, spiritual connections to be able to kind of help those spirits out, help the area out, and help the people out.
I like that. And looking at my experiences too with dealing with negativities, and even as I have kind of started my role in stepping into some shamanism work, do you feel like, for both of you, when you are working within this, I call like an in-between, do you physically feel yourself kind of entering like a more spiritual realm versus, you can still see that physicality, but when, like you said, you're trying to go down this hallway and not necessarily always let the negative things know you're there? Do you feel like you're transversing between dimensions or worlds or levels?
Yeah, it all kind of really kind of like you mentioned earlier. It depends on the situation, because there's certain times when you can walk in as a normal human being and just interact and communicate. But sometimes you'll interact with beings who are on a different plane than the rest of the other spirits.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to learn how to traverse those barriers, I guess you could say, to be able to make communication with these spirits. Now, like how Hiro said, when you go, there are ancient ways and techniques to be able to walk in their realm without them seeing you. There are other many different techniques for different types of spiritual interactions. And one thing my brother always taught me growing up, with every spirit you interact with, there's a certain way you walk. There's a certain way you think. There's
Yeah.
a certain song you have to sing. It's very meticulous on how you interact with these beings, because there is a high level of respect that has to go into it, because
Yes.
some of these beings have been here since the creation of this world. Now, if they're
Yeah.
there at these locations, you have to be mindful. Sometimes they're there for a reason. And it's just like, okay, you got to find out what that reason is. And being able to walk and traverse into that, it's very interesting you bring that up, because that Hero and I have kind of just gotten used to just going. We don't even
Right.
really think about that
You
stuff
don't,
anymore.
yeah, it
But
just goes so quickly.
yeah. So you walk in those realms, you walk in those worlds, because you, in a sense, you have to humbleize mind, body, and spirit to be able to go into those worlds like that, to be able to communicate with them like that.
And do you find it
Definitely.
too, it's that development of trust with your ancestors, with, for me, it's the guides or the people that I pull in. As you built up that trust, do you feel like that has helped?
It's in a sense you get used to your tools, you get
Okay.
used to your energies and everything. So to kind of continue on with what my brother was talking about, and to answer your question a little bit more, let's imagine you're in a really cold room, and your body's gotten used to it. You have a certain breathing to where you're relaxed, you've meditated, and you're in a normal room. And then you go into a steam filled room, really hot. The first thing you do is your body acknowledges it. You feel that it's hot. You feel that
Yes.
it's humid. Your breathing changes. Your body starts producing sweat. Your pores start opening up. There's a whole process to your body adapting to a different environment. And same thing, if you were going to go from that hot, humid environment to a completely different cold room that's freezing cold, your pores are going to close. Your breathing's going to you're going to kind of take that little quick breath, and then you're going to adjust your breathing. Your body might start shaking to be able to warm itself up. There's a whole process that your body physically goes through with a different environment. Spiritually, it's very much the same when you go into a spiritually active environment and you feel their energy, you feel their environment. So that's a little bit of a way to personify kind of the unconscious kind of transition that your spiritual body goes through, because you don't think about having to open up your sweat glands. You don't think about having to breathe differently, kind of open up your sinuses to be able to breathe in that humid environment, or to close everything up when you're cold and start producing heat on your own body. So that's kind of a way to personify going through a different spiritual realms and feeling different energies.
No, go ahead. Sorry. I just wanted to say that's probably one of the best analogies that I've ever heard, how somebody explains that process. That is awesome. Yeah, and you're absolutely 100% right.
Definitely. And with that, when you're kind of going through, kind of learning about spirits, you're learning about kind of the ceremonies and interacting with different beings, you get put in different situations, different environments, and you get used to those feelings to where you don't consciously think about those particular changes. You get used to the songs and ceremonies. When you feel a certain something, there's a song, a very particular song that starts going off in your head. There's a certain prayer that starts being said. When you feel an extremely dark entity or extremely dark negative energy, your body goes into protection mode. Your spirit goes in protection mode, whether you know it or not. And you start kind of almost saying a prayer underneath your breath. You start tensing up your muscles, ready to fight for fight or flight. Your adrenaline starts going, and you're ready for that interaction. So, and then the same thing, if you feel a comforting presence, you start letting your guard down a little bit. You start kind of opening up, just like if you're going to grandma's house.
Yeah, Jackie, she says, well, that just made a lot of things make sense for her. She says, I've just ignored those signs for such a long time, always giving an excuse as to why it's happening. And I think I know I did when I was first growing into my abilities. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to ignore this. There's a reason. Well, yeah, there's a reason. It's your spiritual calling. So on that note, I do want to jump to a quick break. When we come back, everybody, please send in any questions you may have for Sean Clenn and Hero. I want to talk about some very exciting things that you guys have coming up with different paracons, and then dive back into this a little bit. So we'll see everybody back in just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is Patty Negri.
Hi, I'm Pete Orbea.
Hi, this is Nicole Strickland.
My name is Hero.
My name is Sean Clenn.
Hey everybody, Cleet Keith here, author of Ghost of Greystone Beverly Hills. I'm excited to invite you to the OC Paracon, which is going to be the first week in October.
Now that's just some of the people you're going to meet at Orange County Paracon. That would be Anaheim's first ever paranormal conference. I'm Henry, the organizer and also the host of Paranormal Perception, inviting you to meet those people that you just saw. You'll meet everybody, including some guests, some people that we haven't even announced on the website. It's going to be a surprise. Everything, info, tickets available on that website, ocparacon.com. Hope to see you to kick off our favorite time of the year in Anaheim at OC Paracon.
Take us with you on the go and download the new WLTK-DB mobile app. Search the App Store and Google Play under WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Download free today. The unexplained. It's all around us and usually supplies more questions than answers. You need answers. You need Cross Country Paranormal. Founded by Benjamin Young, CCP seeks to train, educate, and mentor anyone that has a passion for the paranormal. CCP is building a network of teams and investigations across the country, and all experience levels are welcome. Learn more about CCP on their website, ccpinvestigations.com, where you can find frequently asked questions, check out their equipment, follow their latest events, and of course, shop. Visit them now at ccpinvestigations.com. That's ccpinvestigations.com. Cross Country Paranormal. All are welcome. All are family.
Welcome back, everybody. It is 26 after the hour. You are listening or watching Chat with Charlie on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn, and I am being joined by Sean Clennon Hero from Unearthing the Supernatural. So if you guys are just tuning in, please make sure you go back and catch the first half of the show. They have shared such amazing knowledge with us, and I have all kinds of links posted if you need to know how to find them right at the beginning. So you can go into those links, click, and it'll give you all the resources to reach out to them. If you guys were paying attention to the commercials, you did see Hero and Sean Clenn because you guys are going to be at Orange City Paracon. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that because that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely. So we are helping Paranormal Perception co-host the OC Paracon over there.
Awesome.
That is the first weekend of October in Anaheim, California. So if you guys want to go ahead and get out there, it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, this is going to be I would say this is Unearthing the Supernatural's first time we're co-hosting a Paracon like this, and we're going to have a lot of great guests out there, and it's just going to be, for us, whenever we go to like Paracons like this and we invite family and friends like this, it's a family reunion, you know. That's because
amazing.
Because we all interact with each other, we all tell stories, we all share experiences, we all share knowledge, and that's kind of really the main thing, is like you get to come meet us in person. You get to come ask us questions that you have, any situations that you're going through. You need some advice for a specific situation that you kind of don't want, you know, in front of everybody and on the side, you know, pull us aside, you know, come ask us questions. And you know, what's awesome about these Paracons is there's so many different backgrounds there. There's so many different resources there, different types of people that can assist you in any of your troubles that you're going through. So, you know, and plus a lot of fun, a lot of great stories.
It is. I'm kind of bummed. I noticed short notice. I'm like, next year. It's on my calendar. Next year.
Yep.
But one thing I did want to bring up is yous are having Tales from Before Creation. And I believe yous are doing that at the OC Paracon, which to me looks super interesting and super amazing. And I don't want to try and butcher the name of who will be doing the storytelling, but could you kind of tell the viewers about that?
Yeah, definitely. So that particular event is an old ceremony that's going to take place. So you think back long ago, before settlers came over, when there was thriving cities and markets, even roadways, if you can imagine it, there was huge cities and roadways of indigenous peoples that would trade from all different tribes all across Turtle Island. And there would be markets and caravans that would kind of go from city to city, that would go from village to village, and they would trade kind of various goods from the different tribes, from different parts of the lands. And they would also kind of travel and meet a lot of different people. Now, there was a very important figure, or maybe a couple figures, that were in that market, that were in that caravan of people. They would kind of hear the stories. They would talk to the people. They would kind of interact and kind of share their experiences. They were the storytellers.
Yes.
And so these particular storytellers kind of go back long, long ago, even before kind of the creation of this world. There's stories that had to be told, lessons that had to be taught. And they're a form of entertainment. They're a form of knowledge. They're a form of kind of connecting with spirit, connecting with the other realms. And so the particular ceremony we're going to be doing and the particular spirit that's going to be performing it is called Jolska. And the ceremony that's going to be happening is a storytelling ceremony. And pretty much this ceremony, it's where I don a mask, and this particular mask calls upon this particular spirit. And the spirit is actually able to come through and speak into these old stories, speak into some ancient knowledge that even I don't know, that none of us here know.
Right.
And he's been doing this for such a long time that he has a way of presenting, he has a way of talking, he has a way of making the story come alive. And so this hasn't been done in such a long time that even in the spiritual realm, we're kind of letting it be known. It's a grand event that people of all ages loved. They loved coming and listening to the storyteller, listening to the amazing tales that were told on these caravans.
Right. And I like that, because even in teaching my children and trying to get people to understand perspectives, is as a society, we have really lost that ability to see the connection between not only our ancestors, but the land. And I feel like that relearning is in resharing those stories. Does that make sense? So I feel like that is just another way Spirit has really blessed you guys with being able to come in and teach and offer that understanding. So I wish I could be there, because I think it's going to be spectacular. So let's talk about Vulture City, because you guys are also going to be at Vulture City. And I think, are you doing a paranormal tour at Vulture City?
Yeah, so with that, I currently run the paranormal tours over there at Vulture City. So
Awesome.
if people want to go out there, we try to do it like once or twice a month. So they have a website on there at the Vulture City, vultureCityGhostTours.com. So
Okay.
if you want to go on there, people can get tickets there. But the Paracon itself, we went last year, and boy, oh boy, was it a lot of fun, because that was our first Paracon that we ever actually went to.
Oh,
And
wow.
Jane Marie Yates and became really good friends with us. The owners of Vulture City really became good friends with us, and they're like, hey, we really like you guys' stuff. Come on over. So we participated, and it's pretty much 2 days of paranormal fun. You get to go on a ghost tour, and you get to actually go on ghost hunts at all the buildings, at all the locations too. And there's a lot of well-known people in the paranormal world that will be there, and you get to like actually investigate with them. People you see on TV, Patty Negri, Tennessee Ray Chasers, Colin Brown from YouTube, Jane Marie Yates, and you'll see us and our whole crew over there too. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And I think, people do not always realize, and for me too, stepping into and being more comfortable with my abilities, you don't realize the networking and the support that when you start getting into these niches and you start getting to know these people that are there. And so, I tell people, if you're looking at even wanting to find support because you might be experiencing paranormal things, you might be trying to deal with your own revelations as far as learning about your abilities, these are great things to go to and to participate in.
Yeah, definitely. And like how I mentioned before, there's just so many. There's a broad, there's a lot of people there that can help you. And one thing I recommend when you go into these places is listen, sit back and listen to what these people have to
Yeah.
say. And through their stories and their knowledge, you're gonna find the one to ask for help. They're gonna know the knowledge that you seek.
Yes.
And they'll one thing I love about these places is everybody respects each other. Everybody
Yes.
is there to listen. And if you need help in that way, they'll everybody does their best to try to help each other.
No, I like that too, because I have found, even in some experiences, and when I had gone, to try to get assistance, when I was working with the indigenous spirits, that sometimes when you're not within this culture, I don't want to say you're dismissed or overlooked, but sometimes people don't always take you seriously. And so I just love how spirit has, at least for me, brought in so many people to support and connect with, and even in this, when I had first seen you guys, and I'm like, wow, this is people that I can go to with some experiences that I've had where I wasn't able to get answers or complete understanding. So I love that about the whole network, with you guys. Diet says she is looking forward to meeting you guys at Vulture City. Diet is amazing, you guys. You guys will love her.
Sweet.
And and Pamela had popped in a question, and she's going back to talking about the storytelling ceremony that's going to be going on at the Orange County Paracon. Would you consider that more storytelling or more channeling? Do you feel like you're more channeling the spirit stories?
In a sense, in English, I guess that's a good way to translate it, is to where,
Right.
in our particular ceremonies, when you don a mask, you're in a sense opening up yourself, not necessarily to possession, but you're allowing the spirit to kind of manifest. You're allowing the spirit to think for you. You're allowing the spirit to speak for you. That's why you'll notice in some of the ceremonies, when you go to these dances, when you go to these particular ceremonies that have the masks or costumes, you go up to them, they're not the same person. They
Right.
are that spirit. They are embodying that spirit. They are becoming that spirit. And so, in a sense, channeling is not necessarily the right word. I guess the best
Right.
way to just think about it is, I become that spirit, and that spirit will speak through. That spirit will have the ancient knowledge that, and when I come back and when I take off the mask and everything, I may not remember anything, or I may
Yeah.
remember parts of it, but it's pretty much a whole spiritual embodiment experience that the being is willing to come and willing to help. And it's a sense, a ceremony of healing as well, because there's a lot of healing that comes from stories, and they're able to look at everyone in the audience. They're able to feel everyone in the audience. And they'll tell just the right stories to kind of pinpoint very
Yeah.
specific people that need it the most.
It is very amazing how spirit works that way. And Pamela, to kind of add on to what Hero said, I feel like within, how we do things within our culture, it would be something like, to me, it's like trance. When somebody is a trance medium and they allow that blending where they become that spirit. And so I feel like, I think you did it fantastic in your description, but looking at it like what I would call it, to me, it would be trance, and not so much the channeling. I had a question, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. I know you guys were talking about, on some of the episodes I worked with, you also work with cryptids, what I would call wood spirits, and things like that in healing. Can you discuss a little bit about that process and your experiences?
Yeah. So when it comes to our interaction with the spiritual world, like how we said before, it's not just, Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Right.
It's when we interact as with spiritual deities in our creation stories and in our indigenous ways like that. There are so many different factions. There are so many different levels, so many different worlds out there, all the way from the tiniest ant to the biggest animal here, the four-legged, the two-legged, the ant, the birds. You have the wind, the fire, all the elements there, the Mother Earth, Father Sky, and then you have the
Yes.
clouds and then the water and oceans and so many. It's so vast, and that's just our little world here. There's so many other different worlds that are out there and interactions and everything like that. So when we were taught as kids that there are spiritual beings out there that in English people call cryptids,
Mhm.
but there are higher level deities like that, that interact, and there's so many different stories out there that are like that for those beings. And it's funny because in our YouTube stuff that we were doing, we weren't even looking for any cryptids or
Right.
anything like that, in one of our episodes that we ran into, it was actually during an overnight investigation over at the Vulture City ghost town. they were hosting an overnight paranormal ghost hunt there, and it's kind of like a paracon, but specifically just for a ghost hunt and overnight.
Okay.
Hero was asked to perform a blessing ceremony for the beginning of the overnight to make sure everybody was safe. And what was really cool is John Zaffis was actually there. So Johnny Zaffis is the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren
Yes.
from the Conjuring movies and everything. So it was really cool to be able to meet him. John, if you're watching this, you're awesome. Love you, man. And yeah, it was really cool because during the ceremony, he came up to me afterwards and he was like, "Did you see that?" And it's like, "See what?" He's like, "I saw a giant bird fly over Vulture City." And I was just like, "Really?" And then he's just
Wow.
like, "Yeah." So immediately all these different like beings, spiritual beings came to my head, and I went to my brother and he was like, "Let's try to find out what's here." So we went on the investigation, and we said, "Okay, well, Vulture City is a hotbed of kind of cryptid beasts, I guess you could say, because
Okay.
it's a ancient burial ground there for a lot of the tribes that were there. So a lot of the ancient monsters, ancient deities were buried there on the lands. So they have giants over there and a lot of sightings of giants over there. So seeing a giant bird fly over there, we were just like, uh-oh, because in our Navajo creation stories, there's a being and deity called a thunderbird.
Yes.
And a thunderbird used to live over in the area called Shiprock. And in the creation stories, he used to fly over to villages and grab people and steal them and throw them against a specific mountain cliffside that's over there, kill them and feed them to the young.
Okay.
And that's in our creation stories. So that's like the first thing that came in our mind when we heard of
Right.
John Zaffis's sighting there. So we went inside the location and we asked the spirits themselves, "What have you guys seen?" And our cameraman Colta was there, and he was like, "Do you spirits need protection?" And you hear the cry of the Thunderbird come through an SB7 spirit box.
Wow.
So, that right there, it shook me to my core, and I'm pretty sure it did with Hero as well, because you never expect to hear a spiritual deity come through an SB7 spirit box like that.
Right.
And so it just kind of comes and it happens that way. And throughout our journeys, my brother can probably go ahead and tell you a little bit about his interactions with cryptids and spiritual deities like that.
Definitely. And so interactions with cryptids and spiritual beings is a big thing we got to get through our heads as humans. Is we're not alone on this world. We're not.
Right.
We live in a world of multiple planes and multiple beings of existence. And these particular entities, they have means of traveling between these realms. A lot more advanced, a lot more practiced than we are. And so they have a lot more songs, ceremonies, and access to be able to go between the different realms, the mirror realm, the shadow realms, the kind of the rainbow realms, the different realms that are kind of parallel with our own, including the spiritual world. And they are able to manifest however they want to. So if they become physical or if they are just energy by itself, they're able to kind of maneuver and go about. So indigenous people has always had a level of respect for these particular deities and these particular spirits, because things like Bigfoot or things like the little people, other cryptids that kind of have been given common English names, they are very important in our creation stories, very important in even today's ceremonies and societies, because they have sacred medicines, they have sacred knowledge that they protect. And there's a reason why they're not well known to this day, because they still have a sacred knowledge they have to protect. Just like with us, you're not going to hear a song in its entirety on Unearthing the Supernatural videos. You're not going to see a ceremony in its entirety, because we protect the sacredness. You'll get a bits and pieces of it, and you'll get the knowledge that you need. But for the full thing behind the scenes, we protect that as well.
And I think that's important. And I that's one thing that I really respect and enjoy with Unearthing the Supernatural. And even in some of the old ways that my ancestors have come back and shown me, and people will say, well, how do you do that? They didn't show you. So it's not necessarily something that you're meant to know. And it's not that you're trying to be off-putting or, but you have to respect that sanctity. And I think in today's society, people don't realize, like you said, Bigfoot, they protect information. And so many people want to simplify life. They're like, well, we have, cameras in the woods. We have this. If these things existed, you would see them all over. But it's those different realms. It's those different perspectives that in this physical world, you're not going to pick up because they are sacred, because they are keeping that knowledge or protecting that. So I love that you discuss that. I have the utmost respect for your knowledge, for how you present things. I hope one day I get to meet you guys in person. I'd love to have you back on the show at another time. Before we go to break and let you guys go, can you tell people where they can find you if they're looking for resources, how they can get in touch with you for that support?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a Facebook, Instagram, and recently now a TikTok too. So and a YouTube channel. So if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram. TikTok's kind of like just more of a little viewing thing. But we have new episodes coming up on YouTube as well. We have little short clips that are on TikTok right there as well. And yeah, we're preparing for a lot of big things here at Unearthing the Supernatural. We got some paracons we're going to. So, if you guys can meet us physically, at one of these paracons, go for it. Get your tickets and be awesome to see you guys out there. And then if not, go ahead and check out our content and see what spiritual knowledge that we have to offer, because every episode that we do has a different lesson, has a different teaching, has a different spirit. So we have a lot more content coming your guys' way very, very soon. I'm actually working on it right now. So, it's going to be very exciting and super excited to be able to show you guys. And thank you so much for having us on the show too.
Oh, thank you. I'm super excited to continue following and seeing where this journey takes you guys. I'm so excited. So thank you again for sharing your blessings with everybody. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. We're going to cut to a quick break. And when we come back, we will talk about our inspiration for the week, what the network has coming up, and what I have coming up.
Yo, thank you, everyone.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
The station mobile app is finally here and ready for you to download free. With the app, you can listen to past shows, view upcoming live shows, read our blog, and even shop. Get yours today at the App Store and Google Play under WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Stay connected and informed. WLTK-DB Talk Radio mobile app. It's yours. Go get it. Come see our new station shop for some amazing top quality merchandise. There is something for everyone, like blankets, electronics, clothing, and much more. Head on over to WLTK-DB.com and click shop to show your support by sporting our logo. The WLTK-DB station shop at WLTK-DB.com. Paranormal talk is our business. And business is good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chat with Charlie show. It is 48 past the hour. I'm your host, Stephanie Lynn. And of course, you're listening to me or watching on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. If you're just tuning in, unfortunately, you missed a fabulous show with Sean Clennon Hero from Unearthing the Supernatural. I encourage you to go back. Also, catch all the links at the beginning of the show. I posted all the ways you can contact and continue to follow Unearthing the Supernatural. You are going to love their knowledge and just the respect that they have for the spirit world. So I really encourage you to follow them. So a couple things about the network. If you are looking for the daily schedule, I posted the link just because I have a lot to talk about. I don't want you to miss out on the schedule, but we're getting busy and it's like 2 sheets of shows. And so I don't have the time to read it. But tonight you are going to want to check out, what day is it? It's Thursday. You're going to want to check out the schedule. You don't want to miss those shows. And that way you'll know too if there's been any changes or any updates. So coming up next week, we are not on the air. So catch some reruns, catch up on some other things, catch up on, Barnaby. He's got a Caps channel. Hop on and check out Unearthing the Supernatural. Catch up on some of those shows, folks. The 15th, I will be welcoming Ellie to the show. Ellie has been on as our live panel. She's going to be coming in and talking about attachments, entities, some of those negative things that some of us have to work with, and her process, how she deals with those and how she's able to help people remove those. Then on the 22nd, we are going to be welcoming Graham, and Graham connects with your spirit guides. So make sure you're saving up those questions. You're definitely going to want to reach out and find out what you can connect with your spirit guides, where you can find help with some of those negative things. So lots of good information coming up. Jackie says she has been obsessed with Caps. Yes, Caps has lots of great paranormal shows. If you're into paranormal, there's all kinds, Paranormal Pete, Christina has a new paranormal show coming out. You guys are going to want to check out. And again, don't forget about Unearthing the Supernatural. So I am going to pull a couple cards just to offer you some clarification. The Spirit is telling me 4. So kind of think about, what are you looking for clarification with? What maybe do you need guidance from that you're just not completely clear with Spirit on which way to go? You can pick 1, you can pick 3, you can pick all 4, completely up to you. So I am again using my Sacred Forest Oracle deck. And the first one, this came up the other day, and I'm going to read it how it shows up. It is generosity inverted. And again, I feel like this, talks about not being generous with ourselves. But sometimes we're not generous with Spirit. Sometimes we are not giving thanks and appreciation to where it belongs. So kind of look within your life where maybe you have the opportunity to celebrate some more generosity, to put in some more appreciation, whether it's to earth, whether it is to spirit, whether it is to self or family. But self-examine, see where you can be more generous or feel and offer more generosity and thanks for those things. Card number 2 is talking about focus. And I think this is really, to me, a common issue within society. There's so many things that kind of come at us. They distract us. They pull us away from our true journey, because we're taught not so much how it is to be in the physical world, how it is to serve our spirit, and how we reach those points in the journey. We get distracted by all that noise, by the social influence, by those other things. Now is the time to really sit down, connect with self, find your focus, find what you need to look at to perpetuate you where you want to be within your journey. Okay, so a little bit more focus. Trust. Trust is card number 3. When I look at trust, I really feel like this is speaking to trusting your intuitiveness. We all have intuitiveness. We all have that to a certain extent. If not, our ancestors would have never made it. They needed intuitiveness to survive. They needed intuitiveness to make decisions. We have it. It is inherently within us, but you have to build that trust. You have to build the trust and allow space for that intuitiveness to come in and to work with it. So if you picked card number 3, just know you need to start building trust between spirit, between yourself, between your own abilities, and everything else that is out there. And the last card is purification, the pure spirit. When I look at this card, I don't necessarily take it at that purification level. I look at it and, you're seeing the snow come in. And to me, that is clearing off the old. It's spirit coming in and giving you a fresh start. When you think about that coat of snow falling, What does that look like? It looks like there's not always paths in the snow. It's pure. And so returning to a state of self-cleansing, of letting go of certain things and operating from a place of pure intent, a place of what I would call integrity, and reassessing where you're coming from and allowing maybe some of that simpler times within yourself so that you can come from a very pure place within yourself. Okay, so just to recap the cards, we had generosity, focus, trust, and purification. So I really want to thank everybody who tunes in every week. You guys repeatedly come back and listen to me, listen to the guests, and are here for that information. I love that. If there's a topic that I haven't covered, a guest or somebody I can get in that you are looking to have information from, please reach out, send me an email, send in those questions, because I do this show for you. I don't do this show for me. I want to help educate. I want to help people understand, and I want you to find the resources that you need for what you're going through. So please do not hesitate to reach out. I will try to accommodate topics. I will try to find speakers that can help educate and offer clarity in those areas. Yes, thank you so much, Todd. Chat, wcharlie@gmail.com. Remember, next week we are not on the air. Tune in the following week and catch Ellie, and we'll touch on some of removing that negativity, attachments, and entities. Thank you, Pamela, for tuning in. Everybody, I will see you in 2 weeks. Take care.